And gentlemen, we have hockey to talk about today. Sweet, beautiful hockey. The first 2 days of the NHL regular season are in the books. We're going to talk about it, but not before we kick off today's show talking about the virtual ice. I want to get to this conversation now. I want to get it out of the way. NHL 24 has been out for a week tomorrow, technically a week and a half from the pre-order release date. And I am already tired of it. Obviously, in terms of talking about the game, Be a Pro is Be a Pro still. There hasn't been too many changes. Up to my cat in the background. Making his first guest. I don't think it's his first guest appearance. Yeah. Second. Be a Pro is what it is. I can't personally enjoy it because of the rosters. People like Sin trudge through. They have fun watching glitchy ass players on the ice. I saw that clip on Twitter, by the way, with the face down sweeping after the hit. It was a good
amazing one.
Franchise mode is a disaster. Unless you are just like, I don't care. It's functional. It's good. If you're looking for anything beyond that, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
The rosters are rough in a lot of ways. I went back and kind of showcased how, in playing NHL 11 and 12 on stream now over the past couple of days, going back and showcasing how they used to do the ratings. And I had given examples of, here's what a 92 overall looked like in NHL 11 with Pavel Datsyuk, where he didn't need 90 plus and everything. He had 75 body checking, which was fairly accurate, and he was still a 92. Yet you compare that to 92 overall Jason Robertson now, who has 89 defensive awareness, 85 body checking, nothing under a 93 for shooting, which is accurate because he's the greatest. Ultimate Team, even though I don't play it, those that do are pretty dissatisfied at the moment, especially in terms of just whether or not the grind is ultimately worth it in a mode that's all about the grind. And then there's the ASHL, which was the one kind of safe haven of like, this isn't too bad. But the problem we've run into over the last couple of nights, and last night especially in playing club on stream, is that it kind of dawned on me, we are far enough into the game that people have figured out what the best things to do are. And when it comes to defense, the best thing to do is not to poke check, because right now poke checks are a little bit busted, where you can reach, hit the puck, but then get a penalty when you retract your stick and hit the skates, even though you hit the puck first. Soccer rules, but that is what it is. It's not to play the passing lane to try to intercept pucks, as Endo Mills is very well aware, as there was a play last night where he was in perfect, by God, position, and his player just stood off or stared off into the void and made no attempt at the puck.
Man, it was bad. And I want to say one thing about that is you could say, wow, an 82 defensive awareness is really, really low, but that was the default for the build. That's a routine play that a defenseman should be able to stop, or at least have some sort of ricochet in front to either make the play to stop it or bobble the puck and cause a redirect so that way the play continues. It shouldn't be a direct, immediate, cross crease goal.
Yeah.
Can I say the strategy that they're doing? Can I say what they're doing to play defense?
Yeah,
they throw their ass.
Yeah.
It is hip checks galore, because the hitbox on hip checks is massive. Insane. You can have no momentum whatsoever, and the minute they throw their ass at you, you are flying. It is hilarious. It is hilarious. It's funny as shit. But when you're trying to play defense, and you're trying to go into the zone, you're attacking on a 2-on-1, all the other team has to do is throw their ass at you, and it's an instant turnover, and the puck goes the other way no matter what whatsoever. It's hilariously insane.
You can't reverse hit a hip check. If they line it up, you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
There was
They
an
don't even
instant
have
last
to line
night.
it up.
You can't deke out of it either. I tried to one-touch deke. He clipped me, and my guy went flying.
There was an instance last night that kind of sealed it for me of just like, man, even the gameplay, it's like I'm having to choose to ignore certain things. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy that the hip check is useful again. The hip check used to be incredibly strong to the point where 2BC, the superb man Hercules check with Chara sending Crosby into the 18th row back in like NHL 13 or 14, I swear to God, resulted in them nerfing the hip check for almost a fucking decade.
It was good in, I want to say NHL 19 or 20. It was way harder to line up than it was now. The only time it was really good was you had to have incredible speed. And it was kind of like it is now. You hit someone along the boards, but you had to be going really fast to like to flip them and stuff like that.
Right. I'm glad there is a really strong hip check in the game, but the problem is hip checks are situational.
And they're very
more
rare
often than not.
NHL.
They're along the boards, with the exception of last night's Hurricanes game. There was actually one a little bit in between the center of the ice and the boards as a it's escaping me who the hell the Hurricanes played last night. I don't know why. But regardless, there was a cut into the middle, and it was a somewhat open ice hip check, which is like only the second time I've ever seen that happen in my life, I swear. It's supposed to be a really strong defensive tool in the proper situation. Last night, there was a play where I was skating into the attacking zone left corner. And what do I see? Three players starting at the face-off circle, skating at me ass first. Hilarious? Yes. Indicative of the state of the game? Yes. And not in a positive light. Particularly as, we got a lot of friends who are like, ooh, esports stuff starting up next week. Like, man, I'm a little bit anxious about the whole idea of, hey, we all do some NHL esports commentary from time to time, of course. I just think it makes the game look like shit. I think it makes the product look like shit. And I feel like if it's getting attention, it's going to get attention for the wrong reasons. It's going to be clowned on because hip checking is the strongest form of defense in NHL 24 right now. And last night I uninstalled the game, and I still haven't reinstalled it. I'm tempted because at the end of the day, I do like playing games with my friends. You two obviously included in that. And I still want to do that. But I'm having to try and ignore more faults than I'd care to. And that's not just an EASHL gameplay thing. That's everything about the game. And I thought about it last night after I ended the stream. Which, by the way, we started up on NHL 12 last night. So that's fun. My biggest issue is I feel personally betrayed. As strongly worded and as fucking weak as that sounds, that is what it is. Because this was the first time, literally since I've been a content creator, that I got my hopes up for NHL. There'll be a lot of long-time viewers that remember I had a video out about NHL. One of my first big videos was NHL 16 rant. NHL 16 was the first game I was uploading content for. Like, I have always been that guy to say cautious optimism. And again, if you're a long-term viewer, you have heard that term from me to death over the years. Hope that it's good, but don't expect it to be. This was the first year where I'm like, I think this could be good. And I got my hopes up a little bit, and they fucking failed to deliver, even at like the lowest expectation for me. And I genuinely can't believe certain aspects of the game are the way they are. And I've tried to figure it out. It's like, okay, did they try to do too much based on the time that they have? Like, I can't exactly figure out just what the hell the issue is. And of course, in the meantime, you get to deal with people online who are just fucking stupid, whether or not it's the the fucking, get good comments. Yeah, hip check like everyone else, as if we don't. Because why wouldn't we? It's the strongest thing to do. Whether it's the typical, game changers ruin the game, as if every fucking game changer hasn't clowned on this fucking game since it came out. I just don't know how to feel about NHL 24. And I don't know exactly what I want the purpose of this conversation to be. Maybe I'm looking for the lifeline of like, hey, here's the reason to keep playing Isha with us. I don't know what I'm looking for, but I know, like, okay, there's not going to be any franchise mode content anytime soon. I got to wait for them to fix that. Then it's like, all right, I can play it, and then there's 2 months of roster. It's just not looking forward to that whole deal. Isha was the only thing that I had, and I find the strengths of the mode right now being hip checks, and I'm not miffed by the Michigan, but the fact that hip checks and the Michigan are arguably the two biggest go-tos on each side of the puck. It's kind of screwed up, isn't it? A little bit.
Yeah, I got Michigan twice in the same game. So, yeah. Fuck it. Abolish the Michigan. Abolish the middle class. And, it's great. It's amazing.
Sin,
how do you feel?
I'm obviously not happy with it, but my style of gaming is I'm very self-competitive, and no matter what, I like to just figure it out. And so I'm of the mind where it's like, yeah, that is what it is. It sucks, but I can adjust around it. Like I want to figure out a way to be good at every single style of it. I don't always expect a game to adjust to my personal desires. I think it should be much different. I think it had the potential to be, but yet again, yeah, the second it looked great early on. I was really, really excited. To defend, it felt like you had a lot more tools. Stick lifts aren't auto penalties anymore. You can bump people in front of the net. You can, engage in more net battles and stuff. That all seemed to be on the right track. But then, of course, yeah, once a meta starts to be formed, then you start seeing what's really wrong. And right now, the hip check, I mean, we knew it in the community play test. The hip check is really strong, and they should be fixing that. But at this point, it's brutal because it's now the most viable way to play defense. Intercepts, there's probably a special way to do them. It seems like stopping skating completely or letting your like don't touch the triggers seems to be the way to trigger intercepts. That shouldn't be how it is, dude. People pick off pucks in stride. People deflect pucks in stride all the time. Like that, it shouldn't require you to just let go like the reverse hit used to be. That shouldn't be a thing for how to intercept pucks. I swear I have my stick check ratings in the high 80s, and my guy will always nearly poke towards someone's feet. That's got to be fixed. And I think a part of that is how much that first poke slows you down because of how long the animation takes. I think maybe initially you're poking towards the puck, but because you're getting slowed down so much and the animation takes a certain amount of time to complete, it's giving a more of an illusion that you're poking towards their feet because, well, that's where you'll end up because the poke, if you miss it, slows you down a bunch. So I think that needs to be tweaked. I didn't agree with how much the pokes slowed you down. And I still don't. So it's no wonder that people are using the hip check so much because it's the most effective way. Stick lifts are good, yes, but when you stick lift the puck, and even if you take it back from them, that person's right there. They can bump you. They can try to stick lift it back. They can get body position. If you hip check someone, they're down. They take a certain amount of time to get up. You cannot take a penalty while hip checking. And if you get the puck, you're nearly home free. So that's not the way hockey's played. I'll keep playing and I'll adjust to it. I'm trying not to get too used only using the hip check. I'm still trying to use the other tools because number one, that's more fun to play like that in my opinion. And they're going to nerf the hip check. If they don't, we're fucked. I'm terrified. I'm terrified to cast this season. If they don't figure this hip check thing out, because right now it's going to rule the competitive scene. We saw it. Every single good team or a team clearly practicing for a league or a team filled with good players who play together a lot, every single one that we came across, their number one defensive tool was the hip check. and that's just not hockey. When we were told about the new hitting system, I was excited because I'm like, oh man, these new hitting animations look great. There's a trade-off though. You miss that big hit, you're caught in an animation, and yeah, that's the way it should be. Right. It's going to be more effective when you line it up, and unlike last season, if you miss that hit, you can't just quickly turn back around and carry a lot of the same speed that you were carrying. That's good, but the fact of the matter is, barely anyone's fucking using that because the hip check is so overpowered right now. So from that point of view, it sucks. They still need to figure out a way to stop people just forcing. You should be able to intercept it. I don't care how hard that pass is going. If the guy who you're right next to can pick it up, you can take it away. And here's the thing about ratings. Everyone cranks down their offensive awareness. And that's just part of the meta. So if the guy can receive the pass, no matter what his offensive awareness is, why can't you, with a higher defensive awareness, be able to intercept those passes? If their logic is you can receive that pass cleanly, hard as it is, no matter in what situation it is, and get a one-time shot off or whatever, then why can't a defenseman make a simple play when the puck's right there to at least deflect it away?
Yeah.
Even if they have higher offensive awareness or defensive awareness, then that person has like offensive awareness or something. That makes no sense. So there's a lot to figure out, but you can, start with nerfing the hip check, start with fixing the poke. And honestly, you got to make the ratings worth something. Defensemen should be able to pick pucks off. You should not just be able to force the middle. We need to get away from that. That was the whole point of trying to implement the pressure system and stuff. Get away from that shit. It's not hockey.
Well, I will say one thing as well. The custom builds that they have right now in there, I think it's Hammer, Shadow, and Bones. Bones has 99 defensive awareness. It's the only build in the game that has 99 defensive awareness, which is fucking hilarious in retrospect. The second I switched over to Bones, I had no issues blocking, taking the puck off people, or anything, intercepting any passes. All of them went right to my stick. It was nuts. So, like, the big, massive jump between an 82 overall, missing a routine play right in front, versus a 99 overall who just basically is a magnet for the puck, without even having magnetic or, what's that claw one? Quick no pick. Contest. To me, it just makes no sense.
I'm just disappointed. Like I said, I got my hopes up for the first time. There's obviously a good chance I'll freaking reinstall the damn thing just because, again, I want to play games with my friends. But at the same time, like, man, it's almost more frustrating now that you can see the potential.
Yeah.
And it's not there as opposed to prior years where a lot of people are like, all right, fuck it. It just is what it is. Especially last year when there were no updates whatsoever. And you're just like, all right, well, we're stuck with this. Now it's like, okay, you said there were going to be updates. Obviously, it's, early to expect updates in some ways. But at the same time, I still look back to the whole idea of, like, they set themselves up for failure in a couple of different ways. Because now it's like, okay, you got rid of different control schemes. And now you're having to spend time adding them back in, which takes away from time that you had to work on other things that probably should have been done by now as well. So I look at that, it's like, hopefully these are the growing pains that lead to, the more complete product that we're all hoping that this would be. It is their first year with the game, being Mike and Chris, the two new leads. Like, hopefully, like, my optimism's not completely killed. I'm frustrated for sure, but my optimism's not completely dead. Hopefully these are the growing pains. I do think they have, they deserve the chance to be like, all right, yeah, hey, we can prove ourselves here. It's going to come down, I think, like, optimism for, say, 25, which is hilarious to be talking about that already, given that we're 51 weeks out from it. But how they handle post-launch over the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months, will really dictate just how much kind of momentum 25 might have. My worries is it might take too damn long to get 24 to the state that it should have shipped in, that people might not give a shit by the time it's updated.
Yeah. I think this is going to need... it's only a week, so he could be massively overreacting. They could have a patch out, like, in the next 2-3 days. I think that they need to do something in the level of NHL 22 did, because NHL 22 added a whole bunch of stuff post-release. They added the roster sharing. They added women into the game. Women into the game. Now, I think they need to do something on that level, or if they have something planned to go with the game to give more life into the game itself. Because I know adding women into the game added something there too. And then the roster sharing, and then they kind of dabble with crossplay a little bit coming into 23. They need to add support for that. Maybe they're going to add the PWHL when their season finally gets started and they figure out what the fuck's going on over there. Because that's a whole other can of worms that we may or may not get into today. Because the PWHL is. I'm gonna save it for later. But yeah, I think the one thing they need to do is have more live updates planned out throughout the year. Like having a static product with maybe like little updates here and there. That's something you can't do anymore for sports games. You have to keep adding stuff, whether it's adding a new soundtrack halfway through the year, like fucking NBA 2K does, or adding more stuff in via patches like they did before with NHL 22 and all that stuff. But they need to add something. They need to keep it fresh and keep it popping, basically.
We'll see where it goes with 24, but I wanted to talk about that, and in terms of whether or not I have the clarity I wanted. Not really. I'm still not sure how to feel about things, and if it's the right decision for me personally to just be like, all right, let's reinstall it and still play eShore. Or it's like, if I should just abstain until the game hopefully gets into a better state. I don't know at this point.
Honestly, I think you're doing well, like content wise, with doing NHL 12 and NHL 11. I mean, it's great to see like the retrospect series in terms of overalls, where you basically grabbed a whole fuck ton of players because you had an early roster from like when NHL 12 launched, and you grabbed like Morgan Riley, you grabbed like everyone. So, mainstay now.
The spoiler for people who only watch on the YouTube side of things, but yeah, we started NHL 12 last night with the Columbus Blue Jackets,
right?
And I drafted every single person that went top 5 in that draft, even Griffin Reinhart. Just because.
Don't forget your blunder, though. You like, I have 2 picks. Oh, Martin Ferg's available. I won't pick him. I'll pick someone else instead. Oh, fuck, I have a second pick. I forgot.
Yeah, well, that's very much me. It's very much me.